I'm going to be continuing reading. There are a few people that are enjoying this book. I think this is the most amazing information that I found. One of my higher rated videos is during Christmas. I said this year I'd be talking a lot about diagnosing schizophrenics or psychopaths, mental illness. So this chapter is quite relevant as it's diving into mental illness. So I'll continue reading where I left off. From a holodynamic view, there is only one whole dynamic that by choice of all participants is played out as particle and wave dances. Rain becomes streams that become rivers that become the ocean that become rain, which falls to become streams in endless cycles. Life here and life in other parallel worlds, local dynamics and non-local dynamics are all part of one whole dynamic stream of information and energy. All worlds are one world. All are aliens. Aliens have always been here. We are it. Our information fields have always been connected. Therapists, counselors, and others seeking mental well-being, including people who have the symptoms of multiple personalities and schizophrenia, will find that using the distinctions between particle, wave, and holodynamics will allow far more accurate diagnosis and far more effective treatment. Taking this perspective, there are 3 ways to diagnose and treat disruptions in mental well-being. Now, you may have some people that are acting a little mentally ill in your family dynamic, and those that are mentally ill don't ever recognize that they have a problem, and that is the problems that we're dealing with on a global basis with all of our leaders. And some of these elites, we're seeing that they're shapeshifters and aliens, and all of that is a sign of mental illness. All of our leaders, all of these people that have this disease of money and wealth, they actually have psychopathic tendencies. They are dealing with a mental illness, and it's the sane people, those at the bottom that tend to be affected by it, have to participate in the cure of their mental illness. It's the only way I see out of this game. It's not war. War makes you be exactly as bad as they are. So anyways, I'll keep reading. The particle dimensions of therapy. Those who are particle-oriented focus on diagnosis. Treatment is based upon biological and biochemical deficiencies and is dependent upon chemotherapy. Practitioners seek a logical biochemical sequence between cause and cure. A recent addition to this approach has been neuronetworking and identity organization. Schizophrenia, for example, is viewed as dysfunctional protein strings whose shape causes disruption in the neuronet channels. Research focuses upon an anti-schizophrenic protein that can replace the dysfunctional one. Research shows that 60% of the schizophrenic patients have this oddly shaped protein. The others are not included in the research. So far, no results have proven effective. People diagnosed as mentally ill are viewed as obsessed with illusions or delusions that are caused by biochemical dysfunctions. Thus, they hear voices talking to them inside their heads. While the entire population of the earth hears such voices, there are few who understand the complexity and powerful potential that is contained within these voices. Voices inside one's head are the conversations of holodynes. The words come from holographic geometric patterns stored within the microtubes. We have found after decades of research on holodynes that every holodyne we have encountered has a positive potential. These self-organizing information systems have causal potency and usually want something. Particle players have no holographic framework for understanding the dimensions from which the voices come and therefore ignore or deny their reality. The result is that some of the most sensitive people in society are placed in mental hospitals where the most prominent treatment seems to focus on getting rid of the voices. Patients are, at minimum, sedated from their sensitivity to holographic dynamics. In simple terms, this approach amounts to a war against the basic human right to consciousness. In more extreme words, it can be labeled as a psychiatric atrocity. So see, most people in the psychiatric field have a mental illness, and they don't want to deal with cures, just block. All of our medical systems are all about block and deal, cope and deal, and never solve or transform any type of problem. So that's why I kind of am against doctors, psychiatrists, physicians. They all seem to be dealing with a huge mental illness that was taught to them in school. While they were taught that money means everything, they've lost the ability to see no, life means everything, not money. Anyway, I'll continue reading. The wave dimension of therapy. Those orientated to wave dynamics are more process-orientated. The therapist usually focuses upon other aspects of identity and consciousness environment. Therapists search for harmony, effective introduction of change within the person, especially in relationships associated with the illness. Treatment for wave therapists focus on group therapy or internal dialogues among the internal voices within the identified patient. Internal dialogues can also be facilitated among family and support community members. This approach is barely tolerated by traditionalists and has only minimum acceptance among the psychiatric community, but it is gaining popularity because it provides, to some degree, expected results. It also provides a sense of hope to a professional that has been getting relatively poor treatment results. Holodynamic dimensions of therapy. One advantage of the holodynamic focus is that the treatment can be accomplished by anyone, and it focuses on every dimension of consciousness. It can be done with anyone. You don't have to be a doctor to be able to do this. Your best friend can help you. This includes the dimension of the holodynes and parallel worlds and their environment. Since holodynes are self-organizing, they are able to communicate with each other. The voices that plague those who are classified as mentally ill come from self-enclosed holodynes that have developed their own causal potency or power to cause. These holodynes contain their own world of information. They communicate, cooperate, and can take over the body, including the consciousness process of their host. Usually, holodynes that cause trauma or deprivation contain information about situations that self-organize in an enclosed event horizon. It contains potential that cannot find a way to express itself. Perhaps the person or social framework is too confined so that the person, the family, community do not recognize or have legitimate ways for the information to be processed. Within the individual, it remains internal, isolated, and self-contained. In order to find a way out, such holodynes can begin to act out their frustration and abnormal behavior results. These crazy-making holodynes may have been something from a person's early childhood. Some situations that originally create the formation of such holodynes might have grown into a disruptive and even self-destructive pattern. It might also have been caused by something that is built into a family memory system that is genetically coded to emerge at a certain stage of the life cycle. There is also the possibility that such holodynes might be caused by something in society triggers a form of collective pathology, hidden in the recesses of each person that becomes active in select members of society. Sometimes these holodynes will show up as a symptom of mental illness. In these cases, mental illness is a reflection of some dynamic that is being denied in a family or culture. In these cases, the individual begins to act in strange ways. It makes no sense to people around them, and the identified patient is taken in for treatment. To those who understand the holodynamics of mental illness, treatment of personal, family, and cultural holodynes are an essential, acceptable, and responsible part of the treatment of mental illness. Once, however, the holodynes causing the behavior are accessed, communicated with, befriended, and explored, their hidden potential can be understood, and treatment becomes an environment of potentialization of holodynes. It includes the person, family, culture, and any parallel worlds involved. We found that when we look at every set of circumstances as being driven by potential, then each holodyne, person, family, culture, or parallel world situation is also driven by the same potential. Therapy becomes the process of potentialization. An effective therapist facilitates unfolding of potential, even if the therapist chooses to accompany the person into the inner world of holodynes and facilitate the internal dialogues or enter into parallel worlds where the problem may be originated. It might take going back into ancient memories, digging up the memories long past, and reliving ancient experiences buried deep in the subconscious of the person. Even though the therapist can be present during these eternal journeys into the recesses of consciousness, the epicenter is not the therapist. It is the full potential self of the person. Using the full potential self as the epicenter or reference for the individual allows the alignment to be with the full potential self and not with the therapist. This is kind of a key statement. I see people with mental health challenges as people who have such love and concern that they give up their own conscious control in order to enter into a subtle, invisible world and take upon themselves the problem of the world of insanity. They are brave souls who care enough to leave the comfortable world of society, propriety, and family security to become insane, lose control, and stay with it until it gets resolved. Only a sensitive being with potential, great compassion would choose such a path. Only a being who knows he is inseparable, connected with every aspect of consciousness, one who is willing to take upon himself the connection with other worlds, would venture into such wounds. This is the potential of those we label the mentally ill. Basically, it's like somebody that's dealing with depression. They take on the pain of being depressed because there's a problem. And generally, depression is a sign that there's a social problem within your family dynamics, your community. Generally, it's a global thing. To deal with a depression means you are more of a global thinker. You see what harm was done to you. It's very painful, and you realize that this is a common thing with all people. So you take on the pain of feeling depressed because you know something is deadly wrong. People want you to snap out of it. Don't look at all of the things that are wrong, and you'll feel a lot happier. Just repeat positive words all of the time, and that's not the deal. If you want to get out of a depression, you actually have to be part of the solution that is telling you something is wrong. Something out there is wrong, and it will make you feel depressed, sad, because it's wrong. So you know what's right, but you lack the ability to find the solution to unfold what is right. You can't communicate. You can't get society to change. You can't get a globe to change. So you sit there being really depressed, waiting for the world to care enough and change. So you do take on the role of being the mentally ill, so that the ones that don't like to have mentally ill people around might wake up and say, well, maybe we need to change our ways to help cure the person that is mentally ill. So a lot of onus is on people that are dealing with mental illness, but it's actually the environment around them that creates the mental illness, that the environment around them needs to smarten up more than the person that is mentally ill. But that is the cure, is all sides play a game. They're in a dance, And when one changes, it influences the other to change. Just like somebody that's depressed affects everybody else around them, everybody else around them acting different would change the person that's depressed, if that makes any sense at all. I'm running out of time. Peace.